If you're considering getting married on Virgin Voyages or eloping or renewing your vows, Virgin Voyages is launching weddings in 2025. In this video, I'm sharing with you the things you need to know that will help you to decide if it's right for you, a breakdown of the 3 wedding packages that you can choose from, a walkthrough and understanding of the spaces, the top questions that people are asking. Let's talk through those, and then let's talk really honestly about, is it worth it? Coming up. And if you're new here, ahoy, I'm Christine Lozada with Where in the World is CL. I love Virgin Voyages, currently on sailing number 18 right now, and you're about to hear some very detailed information and some very honest opinions, because I might be helping not just you in this video, but I might be planning for somebody else, i.e. myself. Stay tuned for that. But before we dive in, I want you to know that I want you to book with us. I'm about to talk you through how Virgin Voyages will support you, but we will be there on the other side supporting both you and your guests. And for the first weddings that book with us, I am brainstorming some really fun and awesome ways that we and I personally will support you before and during your wedding. Find more info about all of that in the description. Most people miss it. I want to kick this off with key things to know that make or break whether or not somebody normally says yes to weddings on Virgin Voyages, or they're like, ooh, that's not for me. Because I respect your time and I want you to know this info first. So if it's not for you, boom, you can get out of here, because we are about to get very detailed.
Respect.
I know you busy. I'm busy too. There are 4 key things to know, and the first one is pricing. The pricing starts at $4,000 and it goes up to $8,000. And yes, there are other things you can add on, like a DJ or live musicians or flowers or things like that. And again, we'll break down how there is value for money here. But knowing that this price point is in that $4,000 to $8,000 range is helpful to know in case you're already priced out. And the other key thing to know about the pricing is it does not include the price of your sailing. In other words, that's just the wedding package. It doesn't include, your room for the couple getting married. It doesn't include all the rooms for your guests. It's just the wedding portion of it, and the things that come with it is in that $4,000 to $8,000 range. The second key thing is the number of people. The maximum amount of people in the largest wedding package that Virgin Voyages offers is 50 guests. So if you're somebody where you're like, well, I have more than 50 family members that must be in the ceremony, not in the wedding, in the ceremony, then automatically you know that this is not right for you. So you can have as few as just the couple, or you can have as many as 50 guests. The number of people is oftentimes a key determining factor of making or breaking a wedding on Virgin Voyages. Number 3 is that it's ceremony only. And what that means is when you get married, you are getting married in quotes. In other words, there's no making of the papers, making it legal, etc. Virgin Voyages is not taking care of that portion of it. You have to separately go to the courthouse. A lot of people hem and haw about this and like, no, I don't want to do it. That whole process literally takes not that long. I'm not young, but know that it's ceremony only and they can provide an officiant for you.
Or BYO.
The 4th key thing to know is the location. Where it can happen on the ship is one of 3 spots, and we're going to do a deep dive in each. It's the wake, it's the scene, and it's the perch. And these are your 3 spots to choose from. So if you've sailed before and you're like, no, I want the manor. Actually, to be honest, they'll probably do something to help accommodate you for that. But in today's package, those are the 3 locations. And for some people, that can make or break whether or not they say yes. Okay, sailors, if you're still saying I do to everything you've heard so far, now we are going to go into some major details. Because we are not just talking about a bottle of Moet here. We're buying a frickin' wedding. I am here to support you with super helpful content. Don't forget, I want you to book your sailing with us. I want you to book your guests with us. We got you. We are going to take care of you both on the booking side, the content side, and don't forget to check the description, because the way in which I personally am planning to help you and your guests, I guess, to be honest, if I think about it, is exactly the help that I would want if I was the person planning to get married. Yeah, I got you. All right, ready? Let's pull up that brochure. What you can expect in this next portion of this video is a breakdown of each of the packages, what the actual process looks like if you're like, okay, cool, like I want to learn more. What do I do now? Who do I talk to? What's the process? I'll talk you through what that looks like because I've started going through it. I told you the 3 locations that weddings can happen in, but I'm actually going to take you to each of those locations, and we are going to, as though you were looking at this and on your actual day, we're going to go through everything you need to know in each of these spaces because the setup is different in each of the spaces. And you need to know where you walk in from. You got to imagine yourself in the space, right? Then we'll talk about understanding the efficient options, more helpful tips, and all the things. So that's what's coming at you next. Let's pull up that brochure and talk details. At a high level, there are 3 different tiers of weddings on Virgin Voyages. The first 2 really make sense if you're having something very, very intimate, and the price point makes sense if you're looking for something that's like really special, where you are guaranteed going to have this personalized ceremony that is just you or just you and your couple of guests. And so the way I think about the first 2 tiers, in full transparency, right now is the minority of what people are booking. When you want to start thinking real value for money, I'm like tier 3 all day, even if it means I'm bringing in random sailors I meet from the social solo sailor meetup. Like, yo, everybody come in for this free cocktail party. I've got a tier 3 wedding going on. Anyway, that's an aside. A lot of people will gawk at the price for the tier 1 and tier 2 weddings. Again, most people are doing the tier 3 wedding. And so I'm actually going to walk you through in detail the tier 3 because it answers what's happening in tier 1 and tier 2. It just adds on more things that give you more value back for your money. So we're going to go on to tier 3 and just if you are considering tier 1 or 2, the build-up is the same. Tier 3 starts at $8,000. Again, 50 guests is what we're looking at. No matter what wedding package you're at, you're going to have that support. And that support is actually really key because even while I'm on this sailing right now, like the weather has changed really dramatically. And also, this is I'm on a really full sailing. Like we are almost at capacity. There's a lot of people on board. I would want the help of somebody coordinating my group and the group dinners. Like I can barely get in as a sailor solo sailor to dinners. So in this package, you have the support that you need. You also have pre-voyage dining assistance. When they broke this down for me versus what the current groups program is like, this is an amazing service. It's something you cannot get in any other way in 2025. I know, like, as a normal human being, you're like, yeah, okay, well, they just book you dinner. It's actually significantly more complicated for Virgin Voyages to do this than you would think. The priority check-in and boarding, that's actually really important. It applies to the couple only, but normally you're fighting for the Splash of Romance package, or in theory, you have the Deep Blue status or some kind of priority sailing club status for Virgin Voyages. But here you're getting that priority check-in. People put a very high value on this. So if you've never sailed before, just know that getting on early is of high value to a lot of people. Steaming of your attire, which might not seem like a big deal, but these little steamers are shared amongst guests. So it's not one that every room gets them. No, not every room gets them. You get them for a couple hours at a time. You also get $200 in onboard credit. That's a good amount of credit to use. You have your wedding specialist. That's key. They really are with you every step of the way, and they really are catering to try to do things to make it extra special for you and really accommodate your wants. One of the key things about a tier 3 wedding is in an entire voyage, whether your voyage is a 4-night fire and sunset soiree or a 15-night transatlantic, there is only one tier 3 wedding happening on that voyage, i.e. yours, which means that they will do a lot of things to make sure that it is exactly the way you want, and it will adjust. Let's say your ceremony is on day 3. Day 3 it's raining. Now it's like, cool, change it up, day 4, and they will make it happen. So having that person that's helping you to make this happen is really important, because I'm watching the forums and people are, oh, I just randomly came on and just, had someone who happened to be efficient take care of it for us, and then we went to the courthouse, blah, blah, blah. And some other random sailor took photos for us. Cool. Working with whatever is happening around the ship versus things being dedicated to you, whether people and crew or the space. The next thing you get is the 1 hour cocktail party. And this I have a new perspective on. And the reason for that is I am so happy to have recently done a group trip. Thank you for so many of you that came on and celebrated JC and I on he is a top 10 travel agent. A lot of people booked the same exact sailing as us so they could come on to celebrate and set sail with us. And we were gonna do open bar, but we were like, no, let's do a pre-sail away, sail away. And we also did a couple like champagne hours in which we popped a ton of bottles. Yeah, we spent a lot of money. I used to work for Walmart.com and Amazon. We love analytics. Let's pull up a calculator and do some quick math. Within Virgin Voyages today, if you do a normal open bar cocktail hour, it normally costs $45. That's what it costs. You can't do this if you're doing the wedding package because there's a ton of value in there, so you can't separately do this, but it normally costs $45. And then let's multiply that by 50 people. So this is the amount that it would normally cost for somebody to do an open bar. That's actually a pretty large amount for just 1 hour of drinking. Let's do the math in one other way because I love numbers. On average, a drink on Virgin Voyages, it kind of depends on what it is, but let's just call it's normally between like $9 and $13 or so. Let's just go with 12 to be fair. During an hour open bar, will drink somewhere between 6 and 7 drinks. I'm gonna be totally honest. I'm really good at drinking. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that. But let's say for normal people, let's just call it 5. They'll have 5 drinks in the hour. That's $60. So normally that hour across 50 people would normally cost this amount. It's just good value there. But the other thing about that cocktail party is that it's not just in an open space. It's happening at a bar on the ship in a dedicated private space for you, whether a portioned off space depending on which bar you're choosing or a completely exclusive space depending on the space that you're choosing. Okay, so we've been talking about the cocktail hour for the tier 3 wedding, but let's actually visualize what that looks like in each of these spaces because there are different options for a full private or a semi-private cocktail hour. And again, 1 hour open bar, but we're in one of the semi-private spaces right now. And what I was worried about is that they would just be setting up a temporary bar, the way you see the temporary bars at the pajama party or the temporary bar at the sail away or the temporary bar at Scarlet Night. But instead, it's actually held in spaces that are actual bars. It just varies on whether it's going to be fully private or semi-private. So one of the things that I think is really cool is that at each of the bars, no matter which bar you choose, you can have 2 specialty cocktails specifically for your wedding. So in other words, if you want to give your guests the entire cocktail list, that's totally fine. But if you have a special cocktail, like my favorite, Amira over here just made a adios, that's an option for you to have as a drink for your guests. And you can have 2 cocktails, maybe a him and him, or hers and hers, or him and hers, or hers and him. And so that's your option, 2 different cocktails. When you have your cocktail party at SIP, normally, and I'm sure that they could do something else, but the space that they would normally use is the space I'm looking at right now. And so this area sometimes is held for the solo sailor events, sometimes the space is used for musicians setting up, sometimes it's used for other things, but this would be the space that you would hold your hour-long cocktail party in. You can see it's a good amount of space that's in here. Lots of seating, people can stand around, and obviously people are not limited to just being in this space while you're having your cocktail hour, but this space will be held for your group so that you have a designated spot that's exclusive to you and your 50 guests for this hour-long cocktail party. All right, so that's SIP. Let's head over to your next option. One of the ones, especially if you're doing the Perch, that makes a lot of sense, is the Athletic Club. And the Athletic Club is amazing because they are completely closing off that entire back area for your private party. This means you guys can really spread out and really have a lot of space to be able to enjoy the Athletic Club. Again, the pros is this privacy, and the cons would be, it depends on the weather, right? Sometimes the weather back there is amazing and you absolutely want to be back there. And other times the weather is going to be like, ooh, it's windy, or ooh, it's too hot, or There have been times where even if you're sailing out of Miami, for example, there's been a cold front. And wow, I was wearing a fur at the pajama party, for example. But the athletic club is the other option for a fully private space. The next option for a fully private space is the social club, which leads into loose cannon. And I was actually, to be fully honest, very surprised that your option is not just loose cannon. I thought that they would just make that back area. And again, that bar tends to be, not always, one of the quieter bars on the ship, but they are not just roping off the section of loose cannon. They are roping off the entire social club area for your private party. And so what's cool about this is you have that entire space, you have the bar that's at loose cannon, and that whole space is dedicated to your group. The next options for a semi-private space is the dock, and separately the dock house. So let's talk about the dock house first, because that's the indoor area. Beautiful space. I really love this space. And so they'll be roping off a section in which you are able to enjoy kind of a hallway going into the bar area of the dock house. And again, the pro here is that you're air conditioned. It's a beautiful space. You have the actual bar. The con being, I don't know, I don't really see a con. It's kind of a cool space. Your next option is the actual dock, and that's the outdoor space outside once you exit the dock house. And so the dock has the sweeping views of the ocean. You're outside, and in this instance they will do half of it. Half of that, right? Kind of think of it as a half moon. Half of that dock portion will be dedicated to your group. There is a full bar that's back there. And so you'll have this option pro, right? Dedicated half space in which you are outside, you're looking at the wake, you're at the back of the ship, really beautiful back there, con weather dependent, and also again, semi-private. So the other quarter of the dock will be dedicated to other people who are just enjoying that space as well. The next space that is semi-private, and actually this footage you see that I'm going to put over the video is going to be another private event that I attended at the Top 100. Again, my guy is a top 10 Virgin Voyages travel agent, gets way better deals, and even there are travel agents on the sailing I'm on right now that booked with us because he gets a better deal than they get. Actually, I'm a travel agent. He gets a better deal than I do. But when you are on the rocks, it is a semi-private space, and there's a full beautiful bar that's down there as well. And so that is your other option as a semi-private space, which is at on the rocks. The next item that's on here is the bottle of Moet. So that's right now $105. Value there. And then you have the ceremony for the couple and up to 50 guests. The ceremony normally takes somewhere around 30 minutes. It might seem short, but they are really doing things to dedicate that space to just you. You'll hear more about that as we walk through each of the locations. The next part is the recorded music and decorations. So one thing that I thought, especially as I had walked into one of the spaces, which is the scene, I was like, are these like corporate style chairs gonna be like the chairs that they use in here? And that's not the case. There is, the 3 arches that you can choose from, which right now boho is the most popular one. And then the chairs, I'm like, are they just like foldable chairs? But no, each ship has a dedicated set of chairs specifically for weddings, and they will have like a celebration wrap on them. So they will look special and they will look nice, and they're not just, fold out chairs, for example. And then they'll have decorations, and in some spaces, for example, at the Perch, because it's outside and there isn't, like a nice flooring there, they will lay out a rug as well. You have the Officiant. Obviously, you're welcome to bring your own Officiant. While they're getting started, they are accommodating requests from the crew around which Officiant you might want. I'm just gonna leave it vague like that.
Promoting things will drive the wedding specialist crazy, so just leave it at that.
But otherwise, you can have one of the senior crew, and occasionally, sometimes the captain, again, or someone senior, be the one that officiates your wedding if you don't have somebody. A glass of sparkling wine for the couple and their guests for a toast. My guess is they're serving something like the St. Louis Brut or something like that. So that value would be something like this amount just for that toast. I love numbers. My phone needs to be cleaned, doesn't it? Then you have your basic boutique and boutonnieres, and then you have your wedding dinner. The wedding dinner is actually, I was surprised by this. The wedding dinner, the one that they have with all of your guests, is in a dedicated area that's just for you and your guests. And again, while it seems like, of course, they should be able to accommodate that many guests, it's my wedding, like, it's very difficult for Virgin Voyages to do this. They've always struggled with groups. And so knowing that that's guaranteed as part of your package is, for me, something where I'm like, I must have this, and they will make that happen. So this is the tier 3 package. Let's talk about customizing your celebration, because I read this a million times, but there are still a lot of things I learned once I was on board and meeting with the wedding specialist. If you're getting some value out of this video, cheers that like button, consider subscribing. Tell me in the comments below what you're thinking. We're all a community. Let's help each other. Boho is the most popular one right now in terms of the ones that people are choosing. And the other thing to know is that, like I had mentioned before, the tier 3 weddings are only happening 1 per sailing, but these are booked out all the way to the end of the sailings that have currently been announced on Virgin Voyages. In other words, the very last voyage that's available in 2026, that's already booked with a tier 3 wedding. All that to say, I feel the pressure of, oh my gosh, like I kind of need to figure things out, because in the grand scheme of what sailing, which one should I do? I want to do the, I don't know. I don't know if I can necessarily do the sexiest itinerary, because I also need to accommodate my guests, and not everyone wants to fly to that crazy destination. It depends on, is it truly like whatever you want, or are you trying to be accommodative of the people who want to celebrate you too? And maybe it's both. I don't know, it might be both for me. I'm like, I don't mind having 2 weddings. The next thing that's on here is the wedding cake options. And one of the things that I loved to think about is how during your dinner, your group dinner, you can have your cake cutting at that time. Obviously, you can have your cake cutting immediately after the ceremony if you want. You can do it pretty much at any time you want. Do it before the ceremony and have people eat it during the ceremony. But you can do it at your group dinner. But it is important to know that they are not able to accommodate for speeches during dinner. So if someone wants to do like a speech and you were like, oh, we want microphones set up, don't forget, the dinner, while it's a group dinner, it's not exclusive to your group. They're not closing off the entire extra virgin or wake or pink agave just for your 50-person group. There's other people dining around you, which is why they're not going to stop the music for everyone so that you can do your speech, for example. So know that you can do your cake cutting at dinner, but you can't do speeches at dinner, at least speeches over a microphone. I'm sure, oh man, the wedding specialist is gonna kill me for saying this. I'm sure you could bring your own kitty microphone or use mine. This might seem like a cheesy question, but one of the things that sailors are not allowed to bring on board is fresh flowers. So I just asked the question, the flowers are real, right? And they are. And again, around the ship, they have fresh flowers. Just as a guest, as a sailor, you're not allowed to bring your own fresh flowers. So it is helpful to know that they are using the same beautiful flower arrangement company that creates the flower arrangements around the ship. You have the option to add additional flowers if you want those, right next to you during the ceremony, especially for photography purposes or videography purposes. And then they have the boutonnieres, corsages, and again, the packages come with the basic ones as well. And then this next portion that's in here around additional add-ons, it's really around music, depending on, what you want around here. You don't know which band you're going to be getting. I mean, one thing that's cool is Virgin Voyages was music first, right? And so they bring really great talent on board. Again, the music is always rotating what talent is on board. So if you saw someone perform, a year and a half ago, they might not necessarily be on your ship, on your sailing, and on your wedding date, if that's a specific one that you want. This next portion, I was like, whatever. But then as I actually broke it down, I was like, if you like spa, not everyone likes spa, try not to judge you about that. The value for this is actually really insane, especially with the current pricing on massages and the current pricing on beauty treatments. This price point it makes a lot of sense. It's great value. I kind of want to get married just for the sake of getting the spa package. Ooh, and this last part of the brochure around circles, these benefits are key. And these benefits are something that is guaranteed to you. It's part of the value that you get for having a wedding on board. You should find out what additional value we can provide you. JC and I, we work together as a team, and it's not us passing you off to someone else. It's us. All right, let's jump to the next portion, which is what the process looks like at a high level if you want to keep moving forward. So if you've read the brochure and you've come this far and you're like, yeah, I think I want to keep learning more and talk with somebody about it, then Virgin Voyages has you fill out a quick form. It connects you with their wedding specialist. And the next step is setting up a Calendly with them, in which you'll have a conversation over the phone and they'll start talking you through the process. If you're still like, yeah, like I want to do this, the next option is to be able to meet with them in person and on the ship. The thing right now is, like, let's say you're Miami based, you can't just be like, oh yeah, let me meet you on the ship. You need to actually be on a sailing, exactly what happened for me, right? When I set sail on this 8-night sailing I'm on right now, the wedding specialist met me at the port and we did, and it's really as long as you want it to be. But he and I ended up talking because I wanted to know the details. We talked for a very long time. And the next step here is you're choosing your date, you're choosing your sailing date, and then you're going into contract. And so when you get the contract, that will basically take everything you've talked about, all of the things you've heard about here, and it just puts it in black and white writing. And there are items in there, such as the 150 days before kicks off the planning process, but you can do it as close as 90 days before you're sailing. So you'll have that wedding specialist bringing you through the entire process. And if you want, because let's be real, as the couple, you want to deal with that portion. You don't want to deal with your guests. Let us help you with your guests. Let me help your guests get excited for and know what they need to expect and what to plan for on their sailing, so that you don't have to deal with that. I am happy to do it for the first weddings we have. I know this is going to get super busy and I'm only one person. Check the info in the description. I got you. We got you. All right, are you ready for this next portion? We're going to head outside to Christine, not on Scarlet Night, and go take a look at the 3 spaces that you can hold your wedding at. And before we even dive in, I'm going to tell you right now that the Perch is the most popular spot. So let's take it outside.
We're going to talk about what the setup will look like, how you're actually walking into the ceremony, and we're also going to talk about the pros and cons of each spot. It's really helpful to know that as you're planning your wedding, you'll always have a plan A location and a plan B location. Let's start with what to know around where this spot is at on the ship. We are at the very back, the aft, and at the highest portion on the ship. You know, the pool is on 15, 16 is another higher deck, but this is all the way up on 17. So the Perch is all the way back and all the way up. This spot is most popular, and it's one where I really had to be in this space and talk through it with the wedding specialist to understand why it makes sense. You're looking out with a full view of wherever you're at, whether you're at sea or at port. Today, for example, we're in St. Croix. So you have this beautiful island behind us. It's amazing. And so the view that you can get from up here makes you truly feel like you are getting married on a cruise ship. So that is one of the pros. It's truly feeling like you are at and on a cruise ship. Let's talk about where the arch, where the actual ceremony is set up at. And it's going to be located right underneath this little camera right here. And one of the things that's really nice about this is that the couple is able to see the entire view. As your guests are watching you to get married, they're both looking at you and out to the ocean, right? And so I was wondering, like, where exactly is the ceremony set up? And then, like, let's be real, we don't want this little box right here ruin the photos and videos. And so it's helpful to know that this box will be covered, and so it's not as distracting looking in any of your photos and videos of your ceremony. The next thing that's helpful to know is how are the chairs set up? And they're set up in a pyramid format. And so this pyramid will have, you know, many chairs at the back and fewer as you come closer closer to the couple. But obviously the final chair, it's not a full pyramid in that there's a single person sitting alone. The final 2 seats that are closest to the ceremony is going to be a set of 2 chairs. The next helpful thing to know is around where you walk in. So when you walk in, I actually think this is a really nice entrance because here, for accessibility reasons, there's an elevator that just accesses. So that means the bride or groom, whomever is doing the entrance, will have the ability to be completely hidden, go up the elevator and make a grand entrance. Oh, I just got goosebumps thinking about it. So I actually think that's really neat. Let's talk about some of the pros and cons, because as you're looking around, one of the things to consider is like how big this space is. So no matter what tier you're at, 1, 2, or 3, whether you have, just you guys, or you have an entire room of 50 people, this is a great space in either case. It can feel very intimate and just the 2 of you, or it could be, all of your guests there. It will fit in either scenario. So again, one of the pros is that you will truly feel like you're on a cruise ship doing your ceremony at this location, but you also have to consider like when in your sailing are you going to do it? And one of the beautiful things about how they're doing it today is that they can flex on the day and time. Like you're not limited on, it can only be during this day and this time. I mean, again, you can't have it on the first day or the last day. But if you're on a longer sailing, like today is a really beautiful day. Like there's wind, but minimal wind, and there's almost no clouds in the sky. There's a few clouds. Whereas when we were at Dominican Republic, it rained that day and it was actively wet all over the decks. And so it was raining off and on. So if you had originally planned it on the port day for Dominican Republic, you could easily change it over to the St. Croix day I'm on right now. And so knowing that this pro and con of there's the weather. You're dealing with the weather. It could be really windy. It could be really nice. It could be really hot. It could be fill in the blank. But the good side is that you have the flexibility to be able to change things around on when your ceremony takes place. The other thing about this location is it really does make a lot of sense if you're doing the Tier 3 wedding to have your event at the Perch and then afterwards do your hour-long open bar cocktail hour at the athletic club, because you can go straight from one space and then literally just walk downstairs to the next space. It's like a nice flow that's seamless. But one thing to consider again is, what time is it? How hot is it? Again, the ceremony might be short, but if you have an hour-long cocktail after, how sweaty are people going to be? I'm trying to sit far away from the camera because I'm sweating right now. There is one con about holding it at the Perch. So in each of these spaces, it's your own private space. And so the team, the crew, they are roping off this space so that no one can come into the Perch while you're having your ceremony here, but they can't prevent people from walking on the track. While I don't think it's a big deal and not tons and tons of people are running on the track, it's just helpful to know that you might have people walking or running around the track. And if they're anything like what it's like when I'm filming my YouTube videos, generally people will stop, stare, take pictures, and do all kinds of crazy things. I'm not saying that'll happen to you, but it's helpful to know that they won't stop people from going on the track during your ceremony. Let's talk about the second location and option that you have available to you, which is where I'm at right now, which is the scene. The scene is located on the 15th deck. Most people don't even know it exists. The pool is literally right outside behind me. And this spot is a little bit hidden. It's at the front of the ship. So you're all the way at the front, and the scene is on 15th deck next to the tune-up. And if you're like, what the heck is the tune-up? That's where they do the manis, the petties, etc., the IVs. And so this spot is on the 15th deck at the front of the ship. As we head inside, you'll see this door is propped open right now, but normally what happens is they will close this door and they'll make sure no one walks in on either side. They want you, again, this is a private space just for you, and they're ensuring that no one is bothering you during your ceremony. So this is a great one for having absolutely no interruptions. As we're entering this space, you'll immediately notice, ooh, right? It's kind of small. So if you have a Tier 3 wedding, this is not a space you can have it in because you can only fit 25 people in this space. And so the setup, what does the setup look like? So in this space here is where you would have your ceremony, and the arch will be set up right where these two seats are at and kind of extends from one side to the other. So it's kind of like a nice and even. And one of the beautiful things about this space that I actually really like is that it's air conditioned, but you have the sweeping views, right? So one entire side of this room is the view, wherever you might be, whether you're at sea or again, like today I'm at St. Croix. Look how beautiful this looks. So one of the pros, right, is this view, but you have to be careful about the photos and videos that you take and where, if you have a photographer, videographer, at which angle will you want them taking those photos and videos? Because if you try to get the view in the shot, a lot of your shots could be potentially very backlit, making you very dark. And so making sure they're working the right angle is pretty key here. Make sure you have them come in and practice before the real thing. Oh, it's a turtle. Oh, no, I'm distracted. But let's talk about how this room is going to be set up because, I mean, obviously what you see here with these desks and chairs that feels very office-like will not be here. And so the way this is going to be set up is you'll have the ceremony over in this space here where the 360 camera is at, right? With the arch over here. You got the windows behind us, and you'll have 2 rows of chairs. If the ceremony is happening here, you'll have a set of 2 chairs going this way and 2 chairs going that way. Additionally, you have 2 options for where to walk in from. You can walk in from this door and do this entrance, or your second option is to come in from the door that we walked through together as we came in and just kind of do a small U-turn straight into the ceremony. So imagine being hidden behind this door here, and then you're walking in to make your entrance, and you're walking straight to the ceremony again with seats on both sides. So that's how you need to imagine this shot. And this flooring already has rug. So what that means is that there's no additional rug that's going to be added to the room. And so you're just walking straight on this rug. This is unlike the Perch. If you do your entrance and your ceremony at the Perch, they will actually put a rug down to lead to the ceremony area. But in the other spaces, both this one and the wake, you're using the existing rug as is, and they're not changing that. And let's just show you really quick what it looks like from the other side. So if you do the entrance from this side and do the U-turn, imagine walking in, the ceremony set up over here, do this U-turn, and now you're walking over to the ceremony space and taking your, I can't remember who's on which side, but anyway, taking the side that you are on. You guys know I like to keep it super real. So one of the other things that I say a lot about Virgin Voyages is it doesn't feel like you're on a cruise ship, except for the part that the ceilings are low. And this is a space where I definitely can feel like I'm on a cruise ship. The ceilings are low. And so it's just, that doesn't bother everybody, and a lot of people don't even notice, but it is a space that feels a little bit more condensed. But don't forget, this is not a tier 3 space. It's a tier 1, tier 2, especially if it's just the 2 of you, especially if you love air conditioning, especially if you don't even want to deal with what might be happening out there. This is a really great space for that. But the ceilings do feel kind of low in here, and for me, I mean, a lot of people think I'm an extrovert. I'm a total introvert. And so being in a space with a lot of people and low ceilings reminds me to take a deep breath. Okay, friends, here we are at the wake. And the wake is located at the back of the ship, aft. In other words, it's called the wake because you can see the wake of the ship. You enter through 7, but the actual ceremony and the actual restaurant is held here on the 6th deck. Let's talk about the setup. How is the ceremony set up here? It's, to be honest, exactly the way you would expect it. One of the most stunning things about the wake is as soon as you walk in, you have this beautiful light fixture, and the arch will be set up directly underneath that. So you, oh, I get goosebumps even thinking about what the photos and videos would look like from that. But, and actually, let's talk about a con immediately. One of the cons is the wake could be anywhere in the world. Think about that. There's nothing about this space that makes it feel or seem or makes you know you're on a cruise ship. And if it's something that's important to you, where you're like, oh, you know, I want it to be known that I got married at sea, I got married on a cruise ship, this is a kind of a difficult space for that because I mean, I guess depending on how you point the camera, it's difficult to be able to see the surrounding ocean or port that's around you. But I mean, this space is just stunning and lovely. And so we've talked about where the ceremony is set up. Let's talk about the chairs. Because I was like, is it similar to before where it's a pyramid like it is at the Perch? And it's not. So unlike the scene, which is 2 by 2, here it's 3 by 3. So the way this setup is going to look, you're going to have your ceremony here, right underneath the lights, and then you'll have a set of 3 chairs on one side and 3 chairs on the other side. And then the middle is obviously where you're walking down and making your entrance, which, speaking of which, it's exactly what you would think. You're making your entrance coming from the top, walking down the stairs to reveal yourself, and then you're making this U-turn when you're at the bottom, and then walking toward the center where the ceremony is going to be held. And so what you're experiencing right now is exactly what will not happen during your wedding, which is they will actually close the doors on 6. So if people are wandering around the ship, they won't accidentally come through in the middle of your wedding ceremony. So they'll close these doors off. And the other helpful thing to know is, and this is a con of this one, right? The wake is brunch and the wake is dinner, which means you're the most restricted as to what time you can hold your ceremony at. Because they don't close the restaurant for weddings, they are only allowing people to hold their ceremonies during the 2:30 to 4:30 time frame. Right now, it's exactly 3:30 p.m. And again, don't forget, depending on time of year, where you are in the world, blah, 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 the lighting can change, but I wanted to bring you here during one of those literal times so you could see how quiet it is in this space, how calm it is in this space, and also what kind of potential lighting you might experience in this space. Because when I was thinking about the wake, and I would love to hear your opinion in the comments below, I was thinking this would be a stunning nighttime wedding. And again, the wake closes at 10. You're allowed to have your ceremony at any time. So potentially you can hold it at midnight, but I don't think your guests would like that. I would want to be in this space personally during the nighttime and not during the day. But tell me what your opinion is in the comments below. Okay, friends, I'm up here. Let's imagine this one together. Are you ready? So you're entering and then you're walking down the stairs, and you have your ceremony over here. You have all of your guests looking up at you, and you're making your way down the stairs, smiling, smiling, smiling. And then you're making this U-turn at the bottom, 3 chairs on one side, 3 chairs on the other side, and you're making your way down the center. And I'm realizing this is also flooring, it's not rug, to this space about right here. So the arch will be somewhere like right here, right? Or here. So this is what that setup looks like.
I don't know about you, but when I got to be in each of these spaces, I just felt really excited for what it could look like. So if that section really helped, please cheers a like button and tell me in the comments if it did, because
I'm all alone in my cabin just talking to a camera.
and I want to know. Let's dive into this next portion of the video, which is just considerations around understanding, is it worth it? Because again, I'm a numbers girl and I want to understand how much value it is versus other things I could consider. Because again, we're not just talking about buying a bottle of Moet here. One of the things about Virgin Voyages is that a lot of people sail with Virgin Voyages who otherwise would never consider a cruise. This is going to sound weird, but I am not a cruiser. I actually, prior to Virgin Voyages, didn't like cruising. It was a last ditch resort for me to do cruising because it's an easy vacation. But I got hooked on Virgin Voyages because it's not like being on a cruise. It's a genuinely fun and cool experience. And so I share this because it offers something different. We'll talk about comparing it to other cruise lines in a second, but a lot of people, when I was talking with the wedding specialist, are comparing, should I get married on Virgin Voyages or should I get married on land? Whether land means a resort or some other destination wedding or fill in the blank. So just know that that's how, like, where most people's minds are at. And again, I may have mentioned earlier in this video, and when I think about the $8,000 price tag on the Tier 3 wedding, $8,000 is half the price of just the venue that we had to pay for when I got married in San Francisco. Thanks, Dad. And you want to know what that wedding venue came with when you paid that much money? Just the effing venue. No food, no decor, no nothing. No entertainment, no music, no, like, it was just the space. So the thing about comparing Virgin Voyages with a land wedding is when it comes to your guests, for me, in my process, when I had previously gotten married, I was overwhelmed, even though I was creating helpful content about what to do in San Francisco, where to stay, like where to eat, this and that, and all the top tips. Oh, my dinner's here. Hold on. Thank you so much. Which, by the way, you know I'm working hard for you when I'm eating in my room so I can finish this video. I got you. Don't worry. Okay, I'm back. I made all this helpful content for my guests, and yet they still all reached out to me saying, Christine, where should I stay? But what should I do? I'm coming in a day early. Where should I go to dinner that night? Blah, blah, blah. Like, all the things where I'm just like, just freaking watch the video or like read the blog posts or all the things, right? Your guests are really demanding around like their own entertainment. And so 2 things. 1, Virgin Voyages is a fantastic time. It's a vacation in itself. If they don't plan anything, great. They're about to show up and have an amazing time and an entire agenda of entertainment, a fantastic stateroom and cabin to stay in, and all the things just handed to them. So you literally don't have to do anything. But let's all be real. Within that set of guests, you're going to have that person that's like, I need to have my dinner at exactly 6 p.m. and I need to know what show is after that and what am I doing after that and what should I do after that and what do I wear for the theme party that night? What's the theme party again that night? Oh, wait.
Tell me what it is for the next night, blah, blah, blah. They're going to ask you a million questions. And
I got you on that section of it. Personalized for you on your specific sailing and for your guests. So check the description. I can't offer this to everybody, but it's what JC and I are committing to for the first people because we want to be there for you so that you can have the best, not just best time possible, but best wedding possible because happy guests help you to have a happy wedding. Oh, my guests were so happy. Oh. Real talk, my wedding was one of the best parties I've ever thrown in my life. It was so fun. So this next portion that I was wondering about, that you're probably wondering about too, is there value in Virgin Voyages versus other cruise lines? Because one of the things you hear me say in my videos about Virgin Voyages, and you also hear Virgin saying it also, is that they don't nickel and dime you. And something as simple as the water, right? I'm not having to pay for my water. So I'm going to give you an example from a guest perspective, and then I'm going to give you an example from a wedding, getting married on board perspective, someone planning their wedding. I'm about to go on a sailing on a cruise with Royal Caribbean with my family because my parents want to have a family get together and my nephew is not yet an adult. The cost of the cruise is, let's just round it, it's somewhere around $3,000. So $3,000 for 2 people. Great. I drink a lot of water. I also drink a lot of champagne. And the additional costs of the drink package, actually, let's just put it on the screen because I want to show you the full price with the taxes and the gratuities and all the things. This is how much just for me to drink costs. How much does that cost on Virgin Voyages? It depends on how much I want to drink in a day, but I literally will need to drink more than I ever want to drink to be able to make that drink package make sense. And then on top of that, I had to purchase the specialty dining. And it's not just 1 night of specialty dining, it's 7 nights of specialty dining. So these are just additional costs from a guest perspective that I'm looking at on other cruise lines. Let's talk about what that looks like if you're the couple that's getting married and you're wondering, should I get married on a different cruise line? I'm gonna start with this story because I think it kind of sets the bar for what to expect. There's another cruise line that just to have the meeting, the in-person meeting with the wedding specialist, makes you pay hundreds of dollars as a deposit that you're going to have a wedding with that cruise line just to take that meeting. And so let's say you take that meeting and you don't want to do your wedding on that cruise line. That deposit is gone. And on Virgin Voyages, they're offering that to everybody. Yes, you have to be on that sailing. They're not going to charge you or force you to pay some amount of money if you're still in that decision-making process to be able to do it. And so that, for me, just sets the tone of, hey, we are going to spend time with you, as much time as you need, and we are not going to make you shell out money to just have the in-person conversation. The other thing is I was brought through, and I'm going to, I don't know, I'm not the style of vlogger that just bashes on other cruise lines, but I was brought through an example of what it looks like very transparently. And I feel this way as a sailor and a guest, and when I pay for my Virgin Voyages sailings, it's clear to me what I'm paying for. And it's very clear to me what's not included. I know, I have complaints that Virgin Voyages doesn't pay for all of my Moet, but I guess that also makes sense. Annoying. Whereas with these other cruise lines, and I was given 2 or 3 examples of what the starting price looks like. And then when you actually build out and literally build out what Virgin Voyages offers, or maybe you have something specifically customized and want something wildly different, you build those things out, it looks really similar to that example I started with cool, my cruise is just $3,000 on Royal Caribbean. Oh wait, but the drink package plus the specialty dining, that's a totally different price point. And so as the couple that's getting married, I think it's one thing to consider about the nickel and diming that happens elsewhere. I still recommend you do your homework. You should price out the other things, knowing that oftentimes the starting price point will be something wildly different than the ending price point. But don't be selfish. Don't just think about yourself. Think about all of the guests that are going to be sailing and celebrating with you. How are they going to feel when they are nickel and dimed also? And then as the couple getting married, and I'm just going, I think as much work as you put into your wedding, if I could go back, and now I'm just giving you straight up advice as a chick that's divorced and has gotten married before and loved her wedding. Oh, best party. I know how to have a good time. You want to do as many things to both be good to yourself and set up your guests for success so that you can all have an amazing time together. So consider that. We talked about a lot of things, but I'm going to finish this with what I'm listening to as the word on the street. I have poured hours of time researching this subject, both for myself and to create this helpful video. And it's not the only one. There's more. And if there's even more things you want me to cover, I'm here for you. Tell me in the comments below. I'm listening all the time. I'm a one-woman team, but I try my best. A lot of people in the forums are talking about how it's just too wildly expensive. The way I think about a wedding on Virgin Voyages is somebody is going to dedicate their time just to you. And as a result of that, you will have dedicated resources, dedicated spaces, dedicated time for you and your guests. And in anything you pay for, there is a value for your money. Virgin Voyages, and I was listening to the CEO talk about this a couple weeks ago in the town hall, about how Virgin Voyages is always about value for money. So a simple, as cheesy, simple example of that is Grog Walk. If you're like, what the heck is Grog Walk? Video on that in the description. It's a bar crawl around the ship, and you'll pay a certain amount for the bar crawl, but the amount of buying the individual drinks would far exceed the cost of the actual bar crawl, except at the same time, you're being entertained by the Happenings cast while playing games and meeting other sailors and getting personal time with the bartenders who made a special drink for Grog Walk, and you have a dedicated space for your party, and it just feels special AF. And that's what you're paying for, but you got value for your money. You didn't, if you went and bought those drinks individually, it's not like it'd be like, oh man, I would have saved so much more money. No, you get so much value. I see weddings in the same way. But at the same time, in the way in which I think Virgin Voyages is not for some other people who normally cruise on other cruise lines that I'm not going to name, like Carnival, it's just a different vibe here that's just elevated. So in the same way that if you choose Virgin Voyages in general, yeah, it's going to cost way more than other cruise lines I won't mention. It costs way more, but you get a totally different experience. It's really hard to compare those two experiences. This one is just way more modern, way more sophisticated, way more elevated. Fill in the blank. It's just different. You're not comparing the same thing here, in my opinion. So as I'm listening to the forums and the people who complain about the costs, for me, I'm just like, well, it's just simply not for them, or they just don't understand the value that Virgin Voyages gives, or if they do, it's still just not for them. And in the same way, Virgin Voyages is not for everybody. Weddings is not for every single person out there. And so I hope this video has helped to bring you through the process. I've taken my time with you tonight. And if you want more, there's more content. Check the description because we're here for you. We really are. And if you got this far in the video, I had a really nice conversation last night with actually a couple different people who came up to me and they're like, I can't believe you are exactly the person I expected you to be in these videos. And I'm like, I got goosebumps. I'm like, of course. Like, they're like, you're so real. And I'm like, as opposed to what? I share that story because I got you. If you have questions, let me know. Again, I'm going through my own process, and stay tuned because even if you don't get married on Virgin Voyages, you should attend my wedding. I'm gonna eat my dinner. I'm Christine Lozada. Come join me in the podcast episode. There's more in there with the conversation with Chris. I'll see you over there. Ciao.